Power of Habit: Why We Do What We Do in Life and Business by Charles Duhigg. Book summary. In Power of Habit, award-winning business reporter Charles Duhigg takes us on an exciting journey to the cutting edge of scientific understanding of habits, their origins, and how they may be transformed. Duhigg gives us a unique perspective on human nature and its possibilities by condensing enormous volumes of data into captivating stories that transport us from the Procter & Gamble boardrooms to the NFL sidelines to the front lines of the civil rights movement. The Power of Habit is based on the thrilling premise that knowing how habits work is the key to regular exercise, weight loss, increased productivity, and success. Background. In the past year, how many times have you resolved to exercise more, eat better, or give up smoking? You have temporary success, a few days, weeks, or months, but then you give in to the overwhelming desire to return to your old habits. I mean, it's not uncommon, is it? We wish things were different, but it's just too difficult to maintain our new habits over the long haul. You are already familiar with the impact that habits may have on your life if you are nodding your head or agreeing with that remark. In The Power of Habit, the author lays out a plan to help you replace negative habits with positive ones. You will gain a better understanding of how habits govern our behavior and the impact they have on society by studying the ways in which the human brain impacts our day-to-day decisions. Chapter 1. The Habit Loop. What is your morning routine? Maybe you get out of bed at your convenient time, go to the kitchen and fill the coffee pot with water. Asking what do I do next is common, right? I disagree. Your brain has developed a habit that allows you to function like a robot to complete tasks. Simply adding water to the coffee maker, setting it on the stove, adding grounds to the filter, and pressing the on button is all that's needed. Modern coffee machines have timers. But whether you're making a protein drink for the gym or a smooth morning coffee, your brain has developed a habit. Many of us are motivated by the thought of having coffee in the morning, but how can our brains make it automatic? Perhaps some of us are only partially awake. A team of MIT researchers who monitored Mikey's behavior can show how this region aids in habit formation. The Mikey's goal was to reach the end of a T-shaped maze and find a piece of chocolate. Researchers monitored their brain activity as they navigated the maze. The mice eventually discovered that entering from the left side led directly to the chocolate. There are 3 components to every habit that make up the habit loop. A cue or signal is the first part. For example, the sound of your alarm clock prompts you to think about what to do next. The routine is nothing more than your usual course of activity. Duhigg defines habits as the choices that all of us deliberately make at some point, and then stop thinking about but continue doing, often every day. How much of your daily decisions are influenced by habits? Because habits are automatic, a better question may be, how often do you make decisions without giving them any thought at all? At least 40% of your decisions are habitual, and you'll see that soon. Mastering habituation is the next step. Chapter 2. Habit Changes Golden Rule. If you need a caffeine fix in the morning, you could have a regular haunt. Perhaps you make it a point to hit the gym after work on a daily basis. While these practices are innocuous and beneficial in the long run, they highlight how simple it is to develop bad habits. Driving past your customary area without stopping becomes more of a challenge if you realize that your morning McDonald's fix is helping you gain weight. You could be irritated for the day or stopping just this last time while driving past. You build a yearning for the reward at the end of the habit cycle, which makes it easier. Duhigg develops the story of Ray, the proprietor of Sea on the Range, a surf and turf eatery. Because of Ray and his employees' bad behaviors, the once thriving business is now in decline. Ray drank to distress from working nearly 80 hours a week. For instance, Ray established a pattern of drinking whiskey. The end of a difficult day was the trigger, the burn of the whiskey was the craving, and the reward was the feeling of relaxation after drinking. One's trajectory can improve with a small habit loop adjustment. How can Ray change his daily routine to stop drinking? You see, Ray is one of the lucky few with a $25,000 swimming pool. After a hard day at work, Ray can kick his drinking habit by swimming laps instead of drinking whiskey. This is the secret to the success of groups like Alcoholics Anonymous. Chapter 3. Adopting Keystone Habits. Anyone who has worked for a large corporation knows how terrifying it is to make significant policy changes and shift the company's trajectory. When Paul O'Neill took over Alcoa in 1987, an aluminum company that had seen better days, he faced the typical first reaction of change. Even though investors doubted O'Neill's credibility, one even called a client and said, "The board put a crazy hippie in charge and he's going to kill the company." O'Neill's reaction was predictable. The idea behind Keystone behaviors is that we can succeed by focusing on one or two things at a time rather than trying to overhaul our entire system. By focusing on these few things, you can start to achieve small wins that have a domino effect and lead to even greater victories. How the idea O'Neill's changes affect the business? Will we talk about it if it bombed? Definitely not. Alcoa's annual net income increased fivefold under O'Neill's leadership by 2000. However, large businesses and individuals can change core habits. Olympic gold medal swimming winner Michael Phelps made visualization and relaxation techniques cornerstones of his routine. He thinks he was exceptional because he could imagine himself successful and so calm his anxiety. Chapter 4. Willpower's Importance. Why not go for a hike on weekends instead of watching endless hours of TV? Duhigg says power of will is the most important keystone habit. Stanford University conducted a well-known 1960s experiment that involved systematically bringing a large number of 4-year-olds into a room. A table displayed an irresistible marshmallow that captured the taste buds of many 4-year-olds. The researchers gave each child a choice. This was the most important part of the study, which was conducted years later. Adults who showed self-control and waited the full 15 minutes had better academic performance, averaged more popularity, and were less likely to develop negative habits like drug addiction. However, self-control is developed over time and can be strengthened through training and practice. Case Western Reserve University researchers gave some people the task of avoiding cookies and others the freedom to eat as much as they wanted. Those who restrained found it hard to focus on finishing a task. Starbucks upper management concluded that many of its workers had the self-control to be kind and cheerful to clients, but as soon as anything stressful happened, like a customer being angry and complaining, it was gone and they quickly stopped being kind and smiling. While you may not be able to implement the Lotte method word for word, it can serve as a blueprint for your own approach. For example, Duhigg gives the case of hip replacement surgery patients and the unpleasant activities they had to do to heal. Patients had a much better chance of overcoming these challenges if they documented their experiences. Chapter 5. Beliefs' Importance. When everyone is on the same page, implementing new policies is a breeze, as anyone who has worked in an office before can tell you. In a previous chapter, we discussed Alcoholics Anonymous. Going to a group environment instead of the bar helped them break the habit, but many still needed more to experience true transformation. The idea of a higher power gives members hope that there is a force greater than themselves supporting their recovery. In addition to belief, Duhigg believes that the group environment in Alcoholics Anonymous is crucial to its members' success. Groups are more likely to believe what the leader says. For example, in 1955, Rosa Parks started a civil rights movement in Montgomery, Alabama. Helping local ladies with their beautiful debutante gowns appeared to be her solitary pursuit amidst her many other commitments, including serving as secretary of the local NAACP chapter and being active in a nearby Lutheran church youth program. After Rosa Parks refused to give up her bus seat, her strong social links persuaded the passengers, which led to peer pressure. Someone must take action in support of a cause for it to be considered legitimate. Just belief is insufficient. Opting out got more difficult as her circle of friends and acquaintances started to engage. But when they stopped showing up after a while, Martin Luther King Jr.'s call for peaceful protests and for victims to forgive their oppressors set everything in motion. As individuals started to plan church gatherings and non-violent protests in response to the call to action, new routines were created. Above all else, though, a movement of people had the hope that things could improve. Having the belief that change is possible is just as vital as having the willpower to make it happen. Chapter 6. Habits are your responsibility. To back up his claim, Duhigg cited 2 instances where individuals were sued for blunders that had grown worse as a result of their habits. The first is Brian Thomas, who in 2008, while suffering from sleep terrors, strangled his wife. Thomas, visibly shaken by his actions, surrendered to the authorities immediately and awaited trial. In his trial, scientists showed that people with sleep terrors can wake up in the middle of the night to act on their impulses even though the whole brain is paralyzed. Angie Bachman is Duhigg's second case. She was sued for $500,000 by Harris for failing to pay her gaming bills. Bachman had already lost her home and an inheritance worth $1 million. Bachman couldn't refuse Harris' offers of free gaming excursions. How did each trial end? The judge was one of several who offered condolences to the bereaved man after Thomas's acquittal, but the public slammed Bachman and she lost her case. Why did one of them plead guilty while the other blamed their behavior? Thomas, on the other hand, acted in response to a terrible dream accident. She could have easily opted out of Harris' program that sends its clients forthcoming deals had Bachman known she had a gambling problem after declaring bankruptcy and spending $1 million inheritance. Thomas was powerless to stop himself from seeing the tempting offers that Harris was making to her, but she could have avoided them if she had wanted to. Changing your routine is ultimately something you must do on your own. Chapter 7. Summary. All of us pick up habits, good and bad, as we move through life. There is a universal 3-step loop that all of our habits eventually take on. Cue, routine, reward. Breaking a harmful habit gets increasingly challenging as our desire for the desired reward persists. The trick to breaking a habit, though, is to switch up your routine while maintaining the same cue and reward. Developing foundational habits is essential for success because, obviously, it's not as simple as establishing a routine. Maintaining the resolve to resist the urge to engage in harmful behaviors is an example of a keystone habit. Building behaviors that contribute to a fulfilling life becomes easier as your resolve grows stronger. Thank you for watching and see you in the next video.